Welcome back to our AI in Action Powering Up with Power Automate series. In the last video, we looked at AI Builder and how we can use it to train and publish a custom documents processing AI model. In this video, we'll be taking that same model and using it to extract data from invoices in a Power Apps Canvas app and a Power Automate flow. Let's get started. So here we are inside of AI Builder. This is the custom model that we built and trained in the previous video. So I'll just click into that. And just to remind you how this model works, I'll just go ahead and perform a quick test where I will upload an invoice document. We'll go ahead and select my invoice. And in the meantime, it's scanning that invoice and making sure that it's identifying the tag elements that we specified while we were training the model. And as we can see that it has picked up the date, the invoice number, customer ID, the table of line items, as well as the total amount. So everything works as is, but then how can we use this inside of a Power App or a Power Automate flow? Let's close this out and I'll switch on over to my Power App. And this is a very basic Power App that is connected to a Dataverse table named Invoice Details. This table merely stores information of each of the invoices in my system. So as you can see in our Power App, the only information that it stores is customer ID, the due date, the invoice number, as well as the total amount of that invoice. So I'll just go ahead and close this out because it is in new mode. And this is the app in its normal state. There's the list of records on the left-hand side, the details of each record. If I click here, it'll switch on out to a different set of records. And traditionally, if I want to use this app, let's go ahead and preview the app. What I would do is I would just click on new, and I would have to manually input data for each of these items. And then once that's done, I just click on submit and it creates a new record in my Dataverse table. Now we want to try and automate that using the AI model that we built and trained in the previous video. So let's exit this preview and we'll see that there is a space for this on the right hand side here. So in this container, I will go ahead and add. Let's go down to AI Builder, this AI Builder section over here, and then I'll click on Form Processor. This will then add in the Form Processor control into the Power App. This is a premium component, so I'll go ahead and exit out of that. And it's asking us to choose the model that we want to associate with this particular control. We only have one model, which is the model that we have trained. So I'll go ahead and click into that. As you can see, this is the control where we can upload our invoice and it will analyze the invoice to extract those elements. But let's do a bit of fixing just so it looks nice and neat. So what I'll do is to change out our width to make sure that the width is the same size as the parent. And then for our height, we'll just go ahead and select flexible height so that it is responsive. So then with our form processor control in the app, let's go ahead and fix the display mode. And what I mean by that is if I go to my preview here, let's go back to the normal state. When I'm in this state where I'm able to move between the records in my app, this should not be active. I should not be able to upload any documents. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to be disabled when I'm in this state. And then only when I click on new record, then I'm able to upload a document. So let's see how we can configure that. Let's go back to our edit mode here. And what I'll do is I'll click on the form processor control. And then with it selected, I'll go ahead and look for the display mode property, which is there. And right now it's in display mode dot edit. That means I'm able to interact with it. I'm able to upload invoices. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to remove this formula, and then I'm going to have a if statement. And inside that if statement, I'm going to say form1, which is the form where we enter in our values. If the mode of that form is set to form mode.view, meaning that if this form is in the view mode, right, it's not in edit mode, it's in view, meaning I can't interact with that form, then I would like the display mode of my processor to be set to disabled. But if it's not in view mode, if my form is in edit mode, then the display mode of my form processor should also be in edit mode. So if I close that formula out, you'll then see what has happened is my form processor is no longer in a state to be interacted with. So if I go ahead and press play, right now it's off. I can't really do anything. But when I select new, then I'm able to now upload a document. And the same thing, if I close it out, it goes back to disabled mode. But now the next step is to make sure that any tags or values that the AI Builder model extracts from the invoice, those tags are automatically added to my form without me having to write them in for myself. And what I mean by that is, if I go into preview mode here and I want to add in a new record, let's go ahead and upload an invoice. I'll upload the first one. It's going to do the same thing of scanning the invoice, trying to recognize those values. And hopefully after a few seconds, it comes up with a couple of them, as we can see here. But now the idea is that as soon as it gets to this point, these values need to be automatically added to this form. So what we can do in that instance, let's go back to our edit mode. Let's click on customer ID and we'll write in a formula. And for this formula, let's expand here. Let's have an if statement. So if the form is in new mode, then we want to take the details from the form processor. We want to extract the fields that were detected. And from those fields, in this instance, we want the customer ID. That should extract the customer ID as we see here. Let's do the same for the other values. But now let's go back into play and let's cancel this. There's a new problem. Even though it doesn't add, this invoice on our right side still stays behind even though we've exited the edit mode. So how can we clear this invoice whenever we go back to the natural state? So how we do that is, let's exit once more. Let's go to a new record, and for our submit button, we'll see that all it does is that it submits the details of that form. We want to just add another formula where we reset the form processor control. So with that, you'll see when we preview the app and I press on cancel, you'll see now that the form processor is cleared and everything is back to normal. So with that, let's go ahead and test everything out. We get an invoice from a customer. We go to new. Instead of entering everything manually, we just click on our form processor control, upload the invoice, wait for it to analyze all the values. And then once it does, everything is automatically added into our form. And then we can go ahead and submit our form. With that submission, we get a new item in our gallery, which means our Dataverse table has been updated, and we get all the values saved from that invoice. But let's see how that looks like inside of Power Automate. So here we are inside of Power Automate, and we're going to do essentially the same thing, but in the form of a Power Automate flow. And for that, let's go to Create, and then we'll click on Automated Cloud Flow. Let's name our flow Extract Invoice Data from Email. And then our trigger will then be when a new email arrives. So that will be our trigger, and then we'll click on Create. So then inside of the flow maker, let's go ahead and click into our trigger and configure a few things. So first, we're going to make sure that we want to include the mails that have attachments in them. We also want to configure the subject filter, only the ones with attachments, and making sure that we assign the correct folder as well. Let's click out of that, and let's finish configuring these values. So for include attachments, we'll say yes. Subject filter, we'll just say if the subject has the word invoice in it. Only with attachments, we'll click yes. And for folder, let's go ahead and click the inbox folder. So with that, as soon as the invoice comes in through our inbox, we can go ahead and call our AI Builder action. So let's click into AI Builder. As we can see, there's a lot of categories. The one that we want specifically is the extract information from documents action. And how we're going to configure that is we will be selecting an AI model, the one that we built and trained. Of course, we'll be selecting the form type. In this case, it is a PDF document, and then selecting the form to process. We're going to use some dynamic value here, and we're going to look for the attachment content. So all the attachments that come from the email is what we want to process here. So I'll click on that. And as soon as I click into that, you'll see that Power Automate has automatically added this for each loop. This for each loop is added because it wants to make sure that if there are multiple attachments to the email that has come in, it needs to analyze each of those attachments against our AI model. So if I get 3 invoices, it's not going to just scan one, it'll scan all of them. So with that, I'll close this out. And the next step is to make sure that the sender of the invoice gets a confirmation email. So let's click on action, and then we'll select Office 365 Outlook, and then we'll select send an email. And for this, let's configure a few properties here. So for 2, we'll select a custom value, and in our case, we'll select from. For our subject, we'll just say thanks for the invoice. And then for our body, I'll go ahead and paste in a short message. So with that, let's go ahead and add some data from the invoice that we've just scanned. So for invoice number, I'll go to dynamic content, and we'll look for invoice number value. And for the total, we'll go ahead and do the same thing, add in some dynamic content and search for total amount value. So not only are we sending a confirmation email back to the sender, we're also sending details from the invoice that they sent, which was extracted from AI Builder. The next step is to add this data back to Dataverse. So let's go ahead and click on add an action. Let's go to Dataverse, and inside of Dataverse, we'll click on add a new row. In this case, it's asking us for the table, which is, if we can find it, or let me rather search for it, invoice details. And then from that, we need to specify which properties of that table we will be editing. So from our parameters, we'll be adding a customer ID, the invoice due date, the invoice number, as well as the total amount. So let's click out of that. We'll go ahead and add in our values from AI Builder. So let's go to dynamic content, and inside of AI Builder, we'll add the customer ID. Let's go ahead and add in our due date as well as the invoice number, and finally the total amount as well. So again, these are the values that come straight from AI Builder, and we were making a new record in our Dataverse table. So once the new record has been created, the last step is to notify you. You also need to know that there's an email that has come in and that a new record has been created. So we'll do that by sending a message in Microsoft Teams. Let's go ahead and add an action. We'll select Microsoft Teams, and then we'll look for post message in a chat or channel, and let's configure some of these properties. So we will post as the Flow bot. We'll post in the chat with Flow, and then the recipient will be me, or if you're building this, you. So what I'll do is I'll go to dynamic content, and from the Outlook parameter, we'll get the to property from the email. So whoever this email was sent to will be the one who gets the message inside of Teams. What I'll do is I will add in a message that I've written up here. So let's go ahead and add in our customer ID as well as our invoice number. We'll also go ahead and add in the due date value and our total amount as well. So with those data fields set up, we can go ahead and save this flow. And once the flow has been saved, we will test to see exactly how it works. Now, once our flow has been saved, let's go ahead and test it. So we'll select manually and click test. Now it's waiting for us to perform the starting action, which is the email. So let's switch on over to Outlook and let's create a brand new email. So what I'll do is, for testing purposes, I will just send it to myself. And then for the subject, I'll write in the word invoice. And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just simply attach the invoice to be sent. And let's go ahead and send the email. So as the email is being sent, it'll go ahead and trigger that flow. Here we see the email with the invoice. Let's go back to our flow, and we'll see that the flow has indeed been triggered. Let's check out our email, and we'll see that we have a brand new email sent back with the message that we configured earlier on. Now, if we go back to our Power App from earlier on, we will see that we still have 3 items in our table, but let's go ahead and refresh the data. And as it's refreshing, we should then get the 4th invoice item that has just been added from Power Automate. Yet there is one last step inside of Teams, and we will see that there's a new message that says an invoice with the following details has been received, with all the details from that specific invoice. And that's it for this video. AI Builder is an amazing tool that enables you to optimize your business processes with AI, and hopefully you can use it to build amazing solutions as well. If you want to learn more about all the other amazing models in AI Builder and the many other ways of integrating it into the rest of the Power Platform, check out all the links and resources I have below in the description to help you get started. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Microsoft Power Platform YouTube channel to receive a notification of the next episode of our AI in Action Powering Up with Power Automate series.